Hey guys, welcome back to episode 26. Today I'm going to be speaking to you all about successful fat loss because I think actually we get lost here, and I think we've been fed what success should look like with fat loss, and actually I think it's far more expansive and bigger than diet culture would have us believe. And what I notice is that immediately when we think of successful fat loss, people probably think of a number on the scales or a size of clothing that they want to be. And actually, I'm going to define what my version of successful fat loss is. And it'll be interesting if it matches up and it's what yours is. So successful fat loss to me, and after 6 years of coaching people to achieve fat loss, I've come to realize that successful fat loss is when your life actually improves due to fat loss. So it's when you have more energy, it's when you sleep better, it's when your relationship with food is built on solid grounds. You can actually enjoy food and you feel free around food. Successful fat loss to me is when your health improves. Successful fat loss to me is when your confidence improves. Successful fat loss to me is when your life is added to, not subtracted from. And I think the definition that we've been given from diet culture of successful fat loss is that it's a number on the scales or it's a dress size, and that there's not actually much outside of that. But successful fat loss to me is so much more expansive, and that's why I vehemently hate diet culture with a passion, because often that leads people to achieve fat loss but in a way that actually diminishes their life, in a way that actually makes them rigid and smaller and fearful of food and not necessarily having more confidence. But they've worked really, really hard to get to that point, only to realise, actually, this is unsustainable and this hasn't added to my life. If anything, it's actually shrunk my life, because now I'm worried about eating with my family, I'm worried about going out to eat with my friends, I'm perhaps really restrictive during the week and then I'm overeating at the weekend. Now it's really taking you down a route of a whole other host of problems in a bid to achieve successful fat loss. Where if we were all able to put on different glasses and see that actually the number on the scales, the dress size that you wear, that may be a part of it, but it's a small part of it. The life that you live and the enjoyment and the fulfillment and the expansiveness of it, and that's really, to me, what successful fat loss is about. And the clients that I've supported where they have achieved fat loss in a way that really truly works for them, and they've gone on and they message me when they've left and they're like, I am still doing all the things that you've taught me, my behaviors are still the same, like I fundamentally shifted as a person and my life grew, my confidence grew, the way that I carry myself grew, the beliefs I have around food, the beliefs I have around myself, all of that grew. To me, that is exactly what successful fat loss is. It's expansive. It doesn't shrink us and make us smaller. And so often the diets, Slim and Well, Weight Watchers, can be calorie counting, the injection I can see heading down that way as well, where it's really one dimensional. Like what we're focusing on is making your body smaller. There's nothing outside of it. It's not holistic. It's not how can we add. It's not how can we nourish. It's none of that. It's how can we get into a small body by any means possible. And that is so, so detrimental. And not only is it detrimental to your mental health, but your relationship with food, but it's actually so unsustainable. Now, I believe here in the UK, we have a huge obesity problem, but I don't think that we have a fat loss problem. Like most people have lost fat. That's not actually impressive. I think that we have a fat loss maintenance problem. So we can do the diets, we can stick to things, we can do something for a period of time to achieve a desired result, but 9 times out of 10 people cannot maintain that. 9 times out of 10 is due to the way they acquired it to start with, but it's also down to the fact that we downplay, don't understand, miss, don't want to do, whatever you want to say, the actual work that's at the root of it, which is your relationship with food, your relationship with your body, and your relationship with self. And time again, what I've seen is when people avoid that work, any fat loss results that they do get is built on quicksand. Because your behaviours, your belief about yourself, the way you speak to yourself, the way you carry yourself, the way you walk through the world, that is all going to come back to you time and time again throughout your life if you don't have a solid foundation to actually build on. And to me, fat loss success encompasses real, true self-care. So not the kind of spa day or the luxury holiday, or not that, but the self-care that looks like, how do I actually show up each day and take care of myself? So am I drinking enough? Do I sleep enough? Am I managing my stress? Do I eat enough nourishing food so that I live inside of a healthy body? All of that to me is fabulous self-care, and it forms part of fat loss success. And I think so often than not, instead of moving closer to these things, we're actually, by diet culture, being pulled further and further away. And I can understand, right? Because there is so much misinformation out there. There's low carbohydrates, there's fasting, there's all of the diets shouting at you. There's someone telling you that you have to fast. There's someone telling you that your cortisol's the problem. There's someone telling you that you're perimenopausal, so of course this is going to happen. You're never going to lose weight. There's someone telling you that in order to lose weight, you're going to have to do 6 exercise sessions a week. There is so much information out there. It's overwhelming. And I can understand, because if this was a different area of my life, an area that I wasn't an expert in, and I was looking outside for a way to go, and I'm getting this person shouting this at me, and this person shouting this at me, and this person shouting this at me, and then Sally down the road had success with this, and Tom up the road had success with this, it can feel so overwhelming and so like destabilizing. Like, what on earth am I actually meant to be doing? Like, what's actually going to get me to the goal? What's going to get me to the place that I really want to get to? So let's go straight there. Let's talk about why fat loss feels so hard. So in my experience, fat loss is simple, but it's not easy. So let me say that again. So fat loss is simple, but it's not easy. So most people will say, oh, I know what I should be doing. I know I need to eat healthy food. I know I need to move. But it's not easy because the complexities of us as human beings, right? And we overcomplicate things, and then we massively underestimate the basic things. And we put our energy into places that don't really give us a great return on investment. So, for example, we'll spend a lot of time worrying about, say, calorie counting, making sure that the numbers match up, or Slimming World. Are we sinning this properly? Are we doing that properly? We'll spend a lot of time on the surface level stuff, and not a lot of time of asking ourselves, hold on a minute, why do I feel compelled to overeat every evening? Why do I feel compelled to be really, really quote unquote good during the week, and then at the weekend everything just spirals and goes out of my control? Like, what's actually underneath that? What's underneath those behaviours? Why do I, when I'm upset or overwhelmed, or I've had an argument with my partner, why do I use food? So we spend a lot of time focusing on things that will only get us further forward temporarily, because unless we really can understand and expand, and this is the work that I do with the women inside the Nourish Women Project, expand our toolkit for coping with stress, overwhelm, times when we're overstimulated, arguments with partner, arguments with work colleagues, unless we can really expand our ability to sit in discomfort sometimes and expand our resilience without turning to food, then Slimming World is not going to help. Like, Weight Watchers is not going to help, because you're not going to learn that there. So temporarily it's fine because you're following rules. And those rules, here's the thing, right? Those rules feel so comforting and comfortable at first. It feels like, right, I've got a plan, I'm just going to follow this, it's going to lead me to where I want to go. Temporarily it will move me forward, but at the root, like actual long lasting change where I really want to live a different way. I want to be comfortable and happy in my body. I want to be free with food. I want to be confident. That's not the way. Slimming World doesn't take you there, because it doesn't actually address any of the core challenges that we had. We don't ask ourselves those self-reflective questions of, why am I using food like this? Where did I learn to use food like this? What other tools have I got in my toolkit outside of food? Because the reality of it is, when we eat something that's delicious, let's say we eat a sugary donut. I bloody love donuts, right? If I was to eat a donut, it does give me a dopamine hit. I do feel good in that moment from eating the sugary donut. So that's an option that I could use as a tool. But if the only way I have of soothing myself, making myself feel better, cheering myself up, is to use food and eat a sugary donut, then given the lives that we all have, it's very unlikely that I'm going to live inside of a healthy body and have a good relationship with food. So what we want to do is understand that fat loss is simple, but it's not easy, because we're complex human beings and tend to the area that we personally struggle in. So it may be that and there may be multiple, but it may be that every single evening I'm at work and I'm dropping the kids to school and I've just got so much on my plate, and by the time I get to the evening I'm overwhelmed and I'm drained and I've got decision fatigue. I've been making decisions all day. I've been making decisions at work. I've been making decisions for the kids. And now I really do not want to think. And I haven't planned what there's going to be for dinner, and the sharing bag of crisps and the big bar of chocolate just look appealing. So that means, okay, so when I'm overwhelmed, a way that I soothe myself or a way that I comfort myself is I start using food. I don't want to make any more decisions. So I go for what's quick, I go for what's convenient, and I go for foods that temporarily are going to uplift me. Now I see people repeating this pattern for years and years and years and years and years and years. And unless we actually get to the crux of, okay, how else could I cope with overwhelm? What other tools have I got within my toolkit to actually cope with overwhelm? We will forever be recycling that same experience because we don't actually have the tools. And it doesn't matter if you've lost, as I watched yesterday, 7 stone on the Mount Jara. There's still no development of coping strategies to deal with overwhelm or stress. So as soon as you stop doing whatever it is, whether it's Slimming World, whether it's Weight Watchers, whether it's using the weight loss injection, you still haven't expanded your ability to cope with overwhelm. So it is likely that you will then return to using food. Hence we get the situation where people are doing really, really well. They lose weight, and then they stop doing whatever it is that they were doing, thinking that something has really changed and things have shifted, or they've just got something that's more overwhelming than usual, and they revert back straight to their usual habits, which is using food. They start putting on weight and they feel a failure. And that failure chips away at our self-worth and our self-confidence. And years 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 of dieting, years and years and years of yo-yo dieting, you start to have this lack of self-belief. You have this lack of self-belief, you have this lack of self-trust, and you start to get into a mindset of, this is not really ever going to happen for me. But the more you believe that, the more you're searching outside of yourself for the magic bullet, the kind of pot of gold at the end of the rainbow that's going to be the thing that actually helps you move forward, instead of turning inwards and saying, okay, I am struggling to navigate certain emotions, or I am struggling with the way that I see myself, or I am struggling with my body image. The answers, in my opinion, and after years and years and years of coaching, is that the answers aren't out there, they are within. But we have to be willing, be brave, be courageous, be honest, be radically self-honest in order to say, I'm going to turn inwards. Like, what's happening for me when I get triggered? What's happening for me when I feel overwhelmed? What's happening for me when I get to the weekend and I really don't care what I eat, I just need a rest? What's happening in my life that's causing me to feel these things that I don't have the ability to currently navigate in order to make these sustainable changes? I've worked with people who are in their 50s, I've worked with people in their 60s, I've worked with women who are in their early 70s, who have spent absolutely years in the same destructive cycle of not really getting anywhere, but putting in a lot of bloody effort. But that energy and that effort is all going outside themselves. It's all going to surface level things that are going to create surface level changes. It's not really being poured inwards, and we're not asking the hard questions because we're not taught to. What is going on within me? Why am I relating with food like this? Why am I treating myself like this? When we start there and we start to really look inwards, and as I said, this is the work that I do with the women inside the Nourish Women Project, is guide them to help ask them those self-reflective questions. I help them see their patterns. So often, and a therapist told me this and I thought it was fantastic, our patterns are here. They're so close to us that we can't actually see. And what someone like myself, a relationship with food coach or a therapist does is we move the pattern back. And it's like, I can see now. And we also help you do that without shame and judgment. Because for so many women, after years and years and years and years of dieting, there is such a feeling of failure. There's a lack of self-belief. There's a lot of guilt. There's a loud, nasty inner critic. This is so, can be so multifaceted in terms of the different avenues to actually be able to move forward with this. But when we do, and when we get that help and support, when we actually tend and turn inwards, that's when we see actual life changes, like sustainable lifestyle. And it doesn't come from guilt or punishment or loud negative inner critics. Like that, again, it's built on quicksand. That is built on quicksand. And I've seen it time and time again, and I'm sure you've experienced it, where you've dieted and you've done it from a place of punishing yourself. Like, I need to do this. I must do this. I'm such an idiot. I have to be able to achieve this. Everybody else is doing it. Why can't I just eat normally? When we do something from that place, it doesn't last. It really, really doesn't last. But we've been also fed this narrative that self-compassion is letting ourselves off the hook, and that we need to be hard on ourselves to actually get anywhere. But if we can embrace self-compassion whilst also having accountability, that is the best foundation to make change. When we actually can look at ourselves and say, okay, I'm human, and maybe I messed up there. Maybe I didn't make the right choice. Maybe I feel like I quote unquote should know better. Maybe I didn't make the choice that is aligned with my goals. But you know what? I'm not going to come down on myself like a ton of bricks. I'm going to give myself grace, and I'm going to allow myself the space to be human and pick myself back up and move forward. And when we do that, we actually move forward far easily than when we're hard on ourselves and we're really, really self-depreciating. I want you to steal one of my coaching methods. And one of my coaching methods that I'm really, really big on is self-reflective questioning and asking ourselves the hard question. And here's how you can start to do this, right? And I love, as a tool, journaling. And I love journaling where we put a question at the top of the page and then we just brain dump. And we allow ourselves and we remind ourselves that we're safe to say what's already being felt. So often when I suggest journaling to people, they say, I don't want to say it out loud. The thing that we're forgetting is this already exists. If we're already feeling it, it already exists. We're not bringing something up that's not already there. It's already there. What we're doing is now trying to emotionally process it. So you can write at the top of the page, let's say, for instance, your week went really well, but your weekend has gone to absolute crap. Like you've really eaten beige, you've overeaten, you've spiraled. It does not look like what you'd like it to look like. I want you to put at the top of the page, what has gone on for me this weekend? What has gone on for me this weekend? Internally, we're talking about. And I want you to just sit for a minute and get radically honest with yourself. What has gone on for me this weekend? And it might be around the week was heavy, I felt overwhelmed, but get really honest about what happened here. Because when you do, and you put it all down on paper and you can read through it, you'll start to be able to understand, okay, this is what I felt. I can have compassion for a person that's absolutely drained and exhausted from the week and gone into the weekend like this. So this is what I felt. This is what's happening inside me. Food was used to numb. Maybe it was used to soothe. Maybe you used it to escape. But do it from a place of compassion. And then at the end of it, ask yourself, what would it be that I would need in order not to repeat this next weekend? Okay? So top of the page, what went on for me here? Journal. And really allow yourself to be honest about the emotions that you experienced, what was happening, what you felt in the moment. And then the next part is, what would I have needed in order to change this? Like, what would I have needed to happen? Like, would I have needed to have a more chilled week? Would I have needed to take more time for myself in the week? Would I have needed to perhaps get some early nights so I didn't feel so tired and heightened emotions through the week? Were there boundaries that I didn't put in that actually then kind of led me sipping resentment that I just thought sod it at the weekend? Were there hard conversations that I failed to have that bled through into my food choices because I wanted to comfort myself that way? When you start understanding your reasons and your relationship with food, you literally have the key to moving forward and becoming unstuck. When we start turning inwards, when we start getting honest, when we start understanding what food represents to ourselves, when we start listening to how we're talking to ourselves, when we start getting honest and being able to see our patterns, that is when you can genuinely start to move forward. If this has resonated with you and you can hear yourself in what I'm saying, you can follow me on Instagram at Kelly, Kelli, Nutrition Coach, where I share much more information about how we can start to tend to ourselves and work and improve our relationship with food. Because only then, when we've done that, will we really be able to get those fat loss results that we want, or have that confidence that we want. And at the absolute core of it, have that deep, better, nurturing relationship with ourselves.